We are going to start with the first presentation, which is about science communication versus citizen science, presented by Dr. Luiza Bengtsson, Dr. Regina Eich-Brod, and Dr. Anna Soßdorf.
Okay, hello. I hope everybody can see the screen. So yes, science communication versus citizen science. Why are we even discussing this? This is a result of a chapter that we've been working on in a white paper on a strategy for citizen science in Germany. And I will tell more about it in a moment. So science communication versus citizen science. The first thing I would like to clarify here are the definitions. So this is the definitions we are operating from. For us, citizen science is about research. So for us, it's a research method, while science communication is a way to inform about research in many different forms. So it's not just science journalism, of course, but any public engagement, knowledge transfer, or any activity that's there. But it's basically one way or the other informing about the research and the research processes and so on. So what is the purpose of science communication in citizen science? So since we operate from these two definitions, so citizen science is a research method and science communication is a way to inform about research, we see science communication as a tool in citizen science. So all these pictograms here depict all just different ideas of what science communication is good for in citizen science projects. So you can form networks, create understanding, you can reach targets, you can recruit people, you can create common understanding about the topic. You can also get some visibility to the outside world for the citizen science project, and so on. You can also put in place on the scientific landscape map, and you can also use science communication, so communicating about citizen science, to actually also get funding for citizen science. So this is our idea of what science communication is good for in citizen science. However, as we looked at the field, we often found that citizen science in the public discussion, public as in policymakers, funding institutions, talking about citizen science, see it as a vehicle for science communication. So not science communication being a tool for citizen science, but rather citizen science being just not a method of science communication. And it's not really, citizen science approaches are not really seen as scientific methodology in this communications or the public domain. And the citizen science community itself sees science communication rather as an engagement tool. So also not as a way to create kind of understanding or communication eye level. So it's more as this really classic information tool. So well, maybe you could say even science journalism. So basically citizen science community sees science communication just as you write about us and then the community will read about it and then they know about it. So the very now outdated deficit model perspective. What we would like to find though is that citizen science is seen as just another way to do science. Just like you use big data for certain scientific approaches, or as you use hypothesis-driven research, as you work with, as you design qualitative or quantitative research. I mean, citizen science is just another way to do science by involving a different stakeholder, different groups in doing science. And what also would like to find is that citizen science projects actually dedicate resources to science communication, the science communication in a modern way, and include it in their project strategy from the start. And what we also would like to find is that citizen science projects do involve the discourse on science of science communication more into the communication strategies. So not just the deficit model, but really the whole range of science communication tools. And we think that in order to achieve this, I think we have to carry discussion further now, and that to have a clear understanding on what citizen science and science communication are and what they can and cannot achieve. We think that the evaluation of citizen science projects should also include its impact on science. So should be evaluated also on the grounds of as being as a research method. I think we think that citizen science projects should also include a discussion on values. So in order to design the science communication strategy. And we think right now there's a lack of guidelines and best practice examples how to integrate, how to do good science communication in citizen science projects. And last but maybe not least, or very important, we think really that funding schemes and communication strategies should be adapted so that the scientific community actually understands and accepts citizen science as a research method. And this is pretty much what I wanted to, or what the three of us wanted to put into discussion, because we would like to discuss these points with you, since these are they coming from the collaborative project. This discussion points come from a collaborative project from Green to White Paper on Citizen Science Strategy for Germany that we're working on currently. And we have the three of us, so Anna Soßdorf was here and Regina Eich-Brod as well. The three of us, we've been working on the, together with Wiebke Brink, we've been working on the chapter Science Communication in Citizen Science. And in this whole process of this producing this white paper, there were over 100 academic institutions and citizen science communication professionals involved, and really from across Germany. And this white paper is being opened for public consultation in July. So we also would like to invite you to contribute to the public consultation. But this is so much from my side. And now, what do you think?
A warm thank you to you and applause. So let's open the discussion. Are there any questions, any points of views you want to share? Now is the time to turn on the microphones. We would allow you to speak now.
Okay, maybe I should throw in some prompt questions then. So maybe a quick poll here. So how many of you have actually or are doing citizen science? Well, I see one hand.
I don't know. I don't know if what I'm doing right now is citizen science, but I'm trying to communicate science through my art on Instagram, trying to just kind of get people excited and more curious about science.
No, that's science communication. That's not citizen science.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, no, that's the thing. I mean, citizen science is really involving people in doing research with you. And it's not so much even about lay people. It's like what I had in the definitions, independent people. So if you do research in a life sciences institution and you involve patients in your research as not as study objects, but actually as valuable contributors of information and research, that actually people who think along with you. These people are not lay people. They just not, they know very well about the illness and their condition, right? For example, patients. They're not lay people. They are just not institutionally bound. And this is what citizen science is about, is involving independent people in your research. And ideally at the eye level, of course, there's a whole spectrum of just donating data, time, or money for research. It's kind of citizen science in a way as well, up to really being involved in research. But it's not about, it's not so much, I mean, the spin-off effect is that you kind of inspire and excite people, but that's not the main purpose. The purpose is research, to find out something, to do research, which could not be done without involving this group of people.
Yeah, I just would like to add something. like you said that citizen science is all about when actually the citizens are doing science, right? So scientists in organized way are doing science, but when ordinary people come out and do science, that's the real citizen science. But when we think about citizen science taking really the ground, then what is the main hindrance, is the availability of facilities and infrastructure, and of course the cost. But I know here in India some people who are really doing good in citizen science. For example, where I work is the area of weather and climate sciences. There are people, young people are journalists who actually do research on landslide prediction and monsoon. They go on making a group, and every monsoon comes, they trace. There is an old treatise, a poem by an old poem, where much of monsoon arrival and its progression is described in the form of poem few centuries back. They are tracing that, because no modern science is working on this. So you think whether that poem is fictitious or it was based on some sound science. They traced the monsoon at different locations and try to find out whether the landfall or timings described in that poem were real. They found, I had a discussion with them, they said no, that poem was exactly describing what is scientifically true today. So such type of things, when I said how you do this, they say that we make a group of 8-10 people, we hire a big mini bus, then go on for 10-day 15-day tracing the monsoon. They go with the clouds, where it reaches. They have their own instruments, they take measurements, and then they validate with the recorded data, and they say they run a project called Meghdut project, and Meghdut is actually the title of that poem. So when I say how you fund, they say we work and it's a hobby. We contribute and fund this project.
Yeah, I mean the problem.
That's the real. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean totally. I totally agree with you. I mean, the thing is, like, what we find, for example, I mean, we've been looking at Germany. Okay, so this is our expertise country. But what we find, for example, is that when if you would like to do a citizen science project as a scientist, initiate citizen science project, it's pretty much impossible to find funding in the research funding domain, right? So there is funding for it in the science communication domain, not much, but there is some, but it's not in the research scheme, and it already separates this from actual research. But I think my Anna and Regina, maybe you want to add something to.
And also, I just wanted to say that Louis Krieger had his hands up. I think he had a question. Has it been answered so far?
It was kind of, my question was going to be who actually initiates the projects. If it's not necessarily a scientist or an institution, how would it begin? How would people come to the idea, I can do science? Citizen science, for example.
Anna, we want to take this?
Yeah, actually, usually, as we know, as in my project, for example, with Fridays for Future here back in Düsseldorf, we had a project which we had funded, and then we looked for participants from the activist sites. So we kind of recruited these citizen scientists. They did not come to us and ask us, well, wouldn't it be fun to make something together? So I think it also has something to do with communication, with science communication, that people outside of the academia do not really know that they probably would have such kind of opportunities. Even showing this, not raising your hands, shows that also people within academia do not know about this approach. So we have a lot to do to maintain and really spread the word that ordinary people can do science, and that it doesn't have to, you do not have to have a degree for that to do it. Of course, some things are not just doable because you have to have a special education for that. But in our case, in the social science, it was really, really fruitful to have some people from just a different perspective, giving us new thoughts and new ideas how we can conduct our research. But still, there's a long way to go.
So with an eye on the clock, I think Annelies Dürings and wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted maybe to add some of our experiences that in Flanders, in Belgium, we have lots of citizen science projects also really coming from citizens, from citizen action groups, and they first think themselves, oh, I want to do something about air quality and how should I measure it, and even if they're not scientists and if no scientists are involved, they could really make a citizen science project and follow a scientific methodology. Because of knowledge that they happen to have from another way. So we have quite some bottom-up initiatives here too, where the initiative is not from a scientist, but from NGOs, for example. So that's also a possibility.
Great. And I think Elaine, Finucane, we take you as the last question and then we go on with the next presentation.
It was actually just a comment. We, myself and Tom, were involved with a project in Ireland called the People's Trial, which was an online randomized trial. And it was an international trial. We had people from 72 different countries, over 3,000 people take part. And I suppose it really demonstrated to us the public's appetite to get involved in science. How it started off is we wanted people to become aware of what randomized trials were, what they are, why they matter. And the people themselves designed the trial. So they chose the question, they developed the methods, and it was really successful, really interactive. So I definitely think there's an appetite for citizen science.
Great, thank you for that comment. And the next presentation is actually about iHealthFacts, health claims fact-checked. And the presentation is also held by Elaine Finucane, or it's held by her colleague, Tom Conway. And I'm really eager to hear more about this.
Thanks very much. Firstly, on behalf of myself, Tom Conway, and my colleague, Dr. Elaine Finucane, we'd like to thank you for having us speak at the Future of Psychi conference. We're two postdoctoral researchers based in the School of Nursing and Midwifery at the National University of Ireland in Galway. So about us, iHealthFacts, it's placed within the Health Research Board Trials Methodology Research Network, or the HRB-TMRN, Evidence Synthesis Ireland and Cochrane Ireland. And together with our funder, the Health Research Board in Ireland, and our partners and evidence advisors, we developed iHealthFacts in direct response to the coronavirus pandemic. So, good health and healthcare is dependent on people making well-informed, evidence-based decisions about their health. However, these decisions depend on factors including the availability and the accessibility of trustworthy information. We know that health information is spread through many platforms, including social media platforms, instant messaging, television, and radio. The coronavirus pandemic saw a tsunami of health claims circulating on social media. And this unfiltered information, some reliable and some not, was called an infodemic by the World Health Organization, and has made it difficult for people to find reliable information when they needed it the most. So we developed iHealthFacts to support public health and healthcare by offering access to trustworthy, robust evidence. What's the purpose of iHealthFacts? Well, the aim is to support the public by providing an accessible online resource where they can quickly and easily check the reliability of health claims they've come across on social media. We also hope that this information and the transparency of the methods we use to fact check claims will help people to think critically about health claims in the future and to support them to make well-informed health choices about their own health. While iHealthFacts is primarily aimed at the Irish public, we all know that social media has no borders, and so we found that claims we address have a global relevance. So our team, the iHealthFacts team, it's multidisciplinary. It's a diverse team from across many different academic and clinical institutions in Ireland. We are lucky to include midwives, primary healthcare providers, researchers, pharmacists, epidemiologists, biologists, psychologists, and health journalists, and also public and patient representatives among our team. all of whom offer a diverse wealth of expertise and experience to the processes underpinning iHealthFacts. And you can also find out more details about our team on our Meet the Team section of the iHealthFacts website. So you found a health claim on social media that you're unsure about, like this one that we received during the initial outbreak of the pandemic about petrol pumps spreading COVID-19. How can you have a fact checked? Well, iHealthFacts encourages the public to submit claims they want fact checked to our website. Due to the sheer volume of claims submitted for fact checking, we're unable to answer every claim submitted to us. But iHealthFacts uses a transparent process to prioritize questions submitted by the public. Questions are prioritized in two ways. Number one, by looking at how important a particular claim is to the public. And we do this by ranking the health claims submitted to us in order of popularity. For example, if we have 300 people submitting the same claim, we know that's a claim that people are concerned with. And number two, we also prioritize claims by considering the potential for adverse harm to the public. During the pandemic, we've all been aware of claims that have had the potential to have serious public health repercussions. Often these claims at first glance appear to be seemingly innocuous, and these are the type of claims prioritized by iHealthFacts. So our process, well, the aim of iHealthFacts is to provide the robust, unbiased information, and we do this by applying the same sort of systematic process to address each health claim, which can be grouped into 6 steps. Number one, to begin with, we assign each health claim to a named member of our team to undertake the preliminary research and write the first draft of the health claim check. Number two, we try to locate the source material for each claim, checking for accuracy and further information. Number three, we then search for evidence, starting with a search for systematic reviews of studies to inform our answer. If these aren't available, we will then search for individual studies. Number four, where appropriate, we also search for statements from reputable health agencies. Number five, a second named researcher independently reviews the first draft of the health claim check. And number six, the answer will also be independently reviewed by at least one evidence advisor, which is a specialist whose expertise is in the area under review, and a public and patient involvement in research PPI advisor, before final review by our health journalist. It's only when all members of the team are in agreement that a claim is submitted for publication on the website. What types of claims have we answered? They've been as varied as the claims which appear on social media, and include this one where we were asked by the public to fact check whether injecting disinfectant can prevent or treat COVID-19, a claim which you might remember got a lot of media attention. As you can see from the image, this image is a short summary of the result of our process and what we use on our social media outlets. But we also provide a link for each claim to our website, which provides a lot more detail to the information we use to answer the claim. Another rumor which spread rapidly through the various media platforms was that 5G technology, mobile technology, was responsible for COVID-19. This claim caused public concern about using this technology and led to protests across the world, even in countries where 5G technology wasn't in use. So the public asked iHealthFacts to fact check both of these claims, and we found no evidence to support either claim. For the most part, iHealthFacts have been asked to tackle claims around COVID-19 to date. However, iHealthFacts also fact checks non-COVID-19 claims. For instance, we were asked to fact check if the pain of nettle stings can be relieved by rubbing the affected area with a leaf from a common Irish weed known as a dock leaf. And iHealthFacts found, despite common misconception, that there's no scientific evidence to suggest dock leaves provides relief from nettle stings. We aim to reach a broad demographic, including diverse socioeconomic, educational, cultural, and ethnic populations. Our goal is to create an inclusive online platform by removing barriers to access. And iHealthFacts currently does this by utilizing social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, to reach the general public. And we've recently started TikToking, but our dance moves aren't quite up to scratch just yet. To date, we've had 15,000 unique users, 55,000 page views, 1,600 individual searches, 550 questions submitted, and 38 questions answered to date. We believe iHealthFacts has much to offer going forward. Almost 60% of the world's population, 4.57 billion, are active on the internet. 2 out of 3 adults regularly search for health information online, often when they're most vulnerable. Unreliable claims about the effects of health interventions can lead to poorly informed health choices, under or overuse of health interventions or treatments, and unnecessary waste and human suffering. Although the COVID-19 pandemic has recently highlighted the effect and reach of health information shared through social media platforms, social media has long played an integral role in disseminating health information to the public. Misinformation and disinformation is not just applicable to the current coronavirus pandemic, but has far-reaching long-term public health implications. We believe iHealthFacts will continue to offer a significant public service in combating misinformation and disinformation, while also supporting the public to make informed decisions about their health going forward. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our partners, the Health Research Board Trial Methodology Research Network, or the TMRN, Evidence Synthesis Ireland, Cochrane Ireland, the HSC Public Health Agency, NUI Galway, and our funder, the Health Research Board Ireland. For further details on iHealthFacts, please visit our website at ihealthfacts.ie or access the paper written by our iHealthFacts colleague Marina Zaki that was recently published on HRB Open Research. So my colleague Elaine and I are happy to take questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. So we are open for discussion now. Are there any questions or comments? So there's a question by Raquel Villar. I can read it, or do you can also turn on your microphone? Okay.
Hi. So I think you're asking is why there's such a large difference between the number of questions asked and the questions answered. I suppose the length that we go to make sure that the evidence we provide is very systematic. It takes an awful lot of work. So we're not glibly answering questions, we're systematically looking for the evidence. We don't provide recommendations, we purely give the current evidence that's available on the claim that's been made, and we provide links back to all the different sources. Like I said, we go through all the different stages, all the different professionals, and we're continuously updating our claims. You know, the evidence on the coronavirus pandemic and the virus itself was evolving over the last year exponentially, and so as each claim needed to be updated, they were updated. So you'll see each of our claims are dated. We do hope to keep, you know, we will keep answering claims. What we're actually finding is that we're now starting to see a lot more non-COVID related claims. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Raquel actually has another question, and she just posted it in the chat. Would you consider then there is a need for more experts available to tackle these questions?
Absolutely, we're open to anyone offering to help us. All this is done voluntarily. You know, it was in direct response to the pandemic, but we're absolutely open to any volunteers that would like to help us.
She's posting, great job.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments?
I was maybe wondering how you deal with situations when the evidence is not really clear, when science is still working things out. It's sometimes difficult to communicate uncertainty.
Yep, a good question. So I suppose we only present the evidence that's there. We will also discuss the type of evidence it is, the quality of the evidence, and like I said, we'll link directly back to the studies. So we'll always try and get systematic reviews, but we know that there wasn't a lot of systematic reviews on the coronavirus when the first pandemic, when the pandemic first started, but they're now coming through. We'll only go to individual studies if we can't get evidence from systematic reviews. But we're very open about the evidence, where we've gotten it from. And what we're doing is we're providing the evidence to allow the public to read it and make an informed decision about their healthcare choices.
Great. Are there any further questions? Yes, there's another question in the chat. Is it possible to address the wild claims from alternative medicine on COVID-19?
Absolutely. If the public ask us, so long as claims, there isn't really, I've been asked this question before, is there a claim that we won't address? And there isn't, so long as a claim meets our inclusion criteria, so it's a claim that's concerning public or that could have a detrimental effect to public health, and it's circulating on social media, we will answer that question. We'll do it systematically using the process that we have. So if the public ask us those questions, then we will answer them.
Thank you very much, Elaine Finucane and Thomas Conway, for that presentation and the discussion. I will go on with the next presentation. The next presentation is about citizens at stake for credible science communication, which is held by Giuseppe Pellegrini and Andrea Rubin.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
okay.
you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Anna, for hosting us. And of course, with Andrea Rubin, we worked on this concise project. It's a research project, a European research project. And in my presentation, I will talk on a public consultation we made in 5 different countries in Europe, and with the idea to collect data from the public perspective, the public perception on trust in science. And first of all, I will introduce the method we use to collect the data, in particular the Italian data. And secondly, I will illustrate different position of participants for different topics. And finally, I will suggest some interpretation of our results. This public consultation we carried out in 5 different countries, and I can say it's a very relevant project, given that it was the occasion to have an open space for listening to the public perception of citizens of different age, different area, profession, and so very heterogeneous groups of citizens, trying to understand which kind of position they have on channels of communication, on science, about the sources and other important things regarding trust. So this is the situation in Italy, and we, of course, have 93 participants. And during one day of this public consultation, we have 10 different groups, heterogeneous groups, in which we discussed 4 different topics. And for each topic, it was discussed separately throughout the day. So the topics were climate change, vaccines, GMOs, and complementary and alternative medicines practices. So we can divide 2 different types of topics, environmental topics from one side and health topics such as vaccines and biotechnology, GMOs. So we try to analyze these 4 themes discussing during the consultation, and we try to find a different orientation of the public, of the audiences we met, proposing 3 main questions. The first one was, which sources most do you trust with? The second one was, what are the preferred channels for obtaining scientific information? And to what extent do the media contribute to developing trust in science and technology? So I'm going to present some perspective and results regarding trust, action, and also some critical elements raised during the consultation. The idea was to collect how people build their trust in order to, in one way, try to understand which kind of different paths of trust they are going to build. So talking about vaccines, it's a topic of the health sphere. Participants mainly trust in offline sources, and particularly on doctors and scientists. Secondly, in traditional media such as television and newspaper. To collect information, participants of the public consultation try to collect data from traditional media, family circles, and friends. This is a typical of an health topic. And they found troubles in experts' different or opposite point of views, and difficult to due to inaccurate media information, they said. So we have to take into account that in Italy, we have a certain anti-vaccine movement, which is, I can say, very relevant in the social media, and but it's not so strong at the perception of the public, given represents about 4% of the population. But again, it's very active in the social networks. And we, as Observa, I'm a sociologist based at Observa, which is a social research institute in Vicenza, working with Andrea Rubin. In our research, we found that public opinion demonstrates people against vaccine do not trust official sources and experts in general, and they usually collect data from their familiar circle and the social network. Talking about complementary and alternative medicine, we try a very different situation in which citizens trust mainly in doctors, herbalists, pharmacists, and secondly in the internet, television, and newspapers. They search for information in personal relationship through doctors engaged in complementary and alternative medicine, which means probably they search information in a particular circle of expertise regarding the alternative medicine and complementary. And the main critical points, information regard usually the severity of diseases to adopt complementary and alternative medicine, and also conflicting opinions that they found in digital media, for example, post-truth or fake news and so on. The third issue was climate change, in which citizens trust mostly in TV programs, newspapers, internet, and also in testimonials. It was frequently said that they mentioned a lot of some climate change ambassadors such as Greta Thunberg or Al Gore. And the search for recognized competent expert is the main action participants do in this case. So we have to say that in general, the main troubles regarding public communication are the scarce information of the institution and again, the fake news. So the last, but not least, of course, issue that was at that time, but also in this moment in Italy, it's a cold issue, not a hot topic as many years ago. And participants sustain this double source and channels of information. From one side, the internet and the personal relationship. So considering specific action, they support research on multiple web sources and in traditional media. The issue is quite complex. And of course, it seems that there is a need to obtain different types of answers considering social, ethical, and political aspects. As you know, this is a complex, a very controversial issue, especially talking about biotechnology in health sector. So the critical elements for effective public consultation are, for example, excessive tones, controversies, and also the private economic interest. So going to some conclusion, in our data, we find significant differences regarding the topics. Of course, topic does matter, and we can say that there are crucial independent variables that influence the orientation of citizens in the choice of sources, channels, and method of information. So to say that it's not possible to say trust in science in a general way. It depends. And of course, we have to take into account when we move For example, if we wanted to do a campaign of we want to do citizen science or the science communication, we have to take into account in a very good way. An important aspect for us is the distinction between online and offline. So because usually we think that now we are living all in the web, in the digital era. But especially in the pandemic, we found that the offline and the media, traditional media, are still very strong. And of course, most likely for some complex issues, social media and the internet are not sufficient to satisfy the public request for information. So the willingness to contribute to the construction of scientific news remain in the public, and therefore the level of trust may vary if the sources and information channels take into account this different orientation. So it's not, again, easy to generalize, given that this is a qualitative research we did. But for various topics and using different communication tools, it's very relevant to take into account. So more or less, this is my proposal. I'm open for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe Pellegrini, for that presentation. A round of applause. Are there any questions or comments? If you do not have a microphone, you can also post your question or comment in the chat.
Oh, there is in the chat, there is a question. It's to be honest, it's not very clear to me. If it's possible to explain a little bit, it seems Jaya. Okay.
There are questions in the chat, but I think they were addressed for the
last.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So if there are no questions or comments so far,
okay, we can go ahead. Probably they are exhausted.
They are exhausted. Very intense session.
No
so we go ahead with the next presentation, and maybe in the end we keep that time. There's a question in the chat. If I'm right, you only presented the Italian data. Were there any interesting differences between countries?
Yes, of course there are, but not too much. Probably the main differences are regarding, for example, the use of the internet. So we have Slovakia in our group, and in Slovakia for health issues, they usually are very familiar with the internet. That is quite different, for example, of Italy. And so there is another different perception. For example, we found that in Spain, they have a little bit much more confidence and trust in public institutions and scientists, which means that there is some, I can say, some not so strong, but there is a difference. And of course, we have something regarding the age, and given the question in the chat. And of course, this is a typical difference regarding generation. New generation are much more familiar with social media and the network and the web. And this is the case also for us. And the participants were selected by age, gender, area, and profession. We used 4 variables. We had tried to involve participants, providing and also asking for participation using newsletter, the website. There is the website of Concise and also the website of the institution involved. There were 4 universities and other, I can say, NGOs and private institutions. So there was a sort of a first recruitment phase and then a selection, taking into account the 4 variables I mentioned before.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any further questions or comments? Otherwise, I would suggest we go on to the next presentation, and for this, Düsseldorf. We cannot hear you. I think your mic is turned off.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to present to you our project, AMAI. AMAI is a citizen science project about artificial intelligence, and the title, it sounds a bit strange in English, but in Flanders, in Dutch, it's an exclamation which means, wow, great, AMAI. And it happens to contain the letters AI, artificial intelligence. And this feeling, AMAI, whoa, great, it's exactly the feeling that we want to give to people through this project. Whoa, AI is great, and it can help us to solve societal issues. I'm not the only one working on this project. I have lots of colleagues working on this, so this presentation is also in name of all of them. Okay. Okay, so the project AMAI is funded by the Flemish government in the context of a larger AI research funding program, AI Flanders, and within this program, it is intended as an outreach component. And the 2 driving forces behind the project is our CIVIL, the Flemish Center for Citizen Science, of which I'm the coordinator, and then the Knowledge Center on Data and Society, who really focus on societal aspects of artificial intelligence. The main goals of the project are to engage the general public in creating new possibilities for artificial intelligence, and to really show them that AI is not something far away. It's actually really integrated in our day-to-day lives, probably more than you think. And we want to really co-develop new AI-based solutions for societal challenges. Not just any societal challenge, we try to make it a bit more specific, and that's why we chose 4 themes to focus on, being mobility, environment, health, and digitization at work. And within these 4 topics, we are really looking for issues that people are concerned with, to which AI might be a part of the solution. So the project is containing 4 phases, and in the first phase, we which has ended mid of June, we gathered ideas for AI, issues that people are concerned with within our 4 themes that AI might be a solution to. And we also did some brainstorm sessions for people who prefer to think together with others. We had a platform to which they could submit ideas. And then in the second phase, which is running now, we are transforming all these quite broad ideas to real new research questions. We clustered the ideas. We organizing now what we are calling campfire sessions. They're real life sessions. It's nice to see each other again after this long year, to dive into what the questions, the issues are really about. And then in the next phase, from September on, we will launch an open call to which consortia can submit proposals, because the idea is that at least 4 of the ideas will really be realized, will be co-created together with citizens, and these projects will receive funding. So our target audiences, our main target audience is what we call societal implementers. It's people who are not primarily interested in AI or in technology, but who are deeply concerned with current societal challenges, and they can be motivated to think about the possibilities of AI and technology if they can be used to be part of a solution to these societal issues that they are so concerned about. So we actually kind of want to seduce them to think about AI through their concerns for society. And next to this, we really also want to include civil society organizations related to our 4 main themes, researchers that work on artificial intelligence, but also AI professionals like people working in SMEs, actually creating and developing AI systems, and then policymakers related to our topics. And throughout the different phases of the project, we try to maximally involve each group and really have them interact with each other. And I will just briefly show some aspects of the different phases. So in the first phase, people could submit their ideas to our platform. And our slogan was that every smart solution starts with a simple question. So we really wanted to stimulate people to ask their questions, even if they were very basic ideas, even if they weren't sure if artificial intelligence could be part of a solution. Just if they had some issues that were relevant to them, we really asked them to submit them to our platform, and then in the next phases we would check if artificial intelligence could be part of a solution. And to stimulate people to submit ideas, we organized brainstorm sessions. They were online due to COVID. We organized some sessions ourselves aimed at the general public, and then we also co-organized sessions with civil society organizations, and we really felt that this way we could reach much more people because they mobilized their own network to come and brainstorm with us. And then we also, to attract people to the project, we created like this easy and fun test about AI in your daily life. How artificial intelligence is your visit to the supermarket? And people could answer some questions about things they do in the supermarket, like what typical fruit and vegetables they would buy, if they would pay with card or with cash, if they make a grocery list on paper on your smartphone. And then in the end, they received a score on how much AI they used in their supermarket visits, or how much AI was present in their supermarket visits. So we wanted to show them that even if they're not really technology minded, they probably already come in contact with artificial intelligence in their day-to-day lives. And it's not something to be scared about. It's we want just to make people curious so that they would visit our website and maybe submit an idea or a question to our platform. And then we also wanted to provide lots of information on artificial intelligence. And it was really a struggle to us how to communicate it in a scientifically correct way, in a complete way, and still be very understandable and low key. So in the end, we created 4 stories about 4 peoples for 4 main topics. And through these stories, we try to explain what artificial intelligence is. For example, for mobility, we have Amir, who has a smart bike that helps him keep his balance because he has some balancing issues. And this way he can still continue to ride a bike with the assistance of artificial intelligence. And then we explain the typical tasks AI could be used for, the main ingredients, such as a self-learning algorithm, such as data, the main different technologies that AI has. And by doing it through these stories, we try to make it more accessible to people. And then now we're in phase 2. We gathered 362 ideas on our platform, and then we clustered them in 35 clusters of similar ideas, or ideas very much related to each other. And with these clusters, we go to our campfire sessions where we sit together in real life and discuss the ideas and really go into what's really the problem here, what's the issue that we want to solve, and who would be impacted by a solution, and what does the solution need to look like to really be used by the target audience, or to really be a solution for this problem. And in this campfire session, we co-create about 20 scenarios we will have to see. And then these scenarios will be used for the open call. And also in our campfire session, so we try to get the people who submitted the IDs there and then connect them with civil society organizations. There's some AI experts there to explain about the possibilities, to make the link with the concerns of the people. So we really try to create this interaction between our different target audiences. And then in the next 2 phases from September on, we will launch an open call to which consortia can submit a proposal to develop an AI solution to one of the issues that came out of these campfire sessions. And in the end, 4 projects will receive funding. And also here, it's the intention that a consortium, for example, has to exist out of different stakeholder groups. Like there has to be a civil society organization, not only AI experts, because we really want them to create a solution together, and hopefully also to implement some citizen science aspects in the creation of the solution. For example, for the training of the AI of the AI program, citizens can gather data, they can annotate the data, they can maybe think about how it should look like to really also give them a feeling about how our AI solutions developed. So this was my very brief overview of our project. And if you want to know more about it, you can visit our website or contact me through email. And then maybe just for the discussion, one thing I really noticed in this project was that real life works so much better than online. We had really lots of problems to get people to submit ideas on our platform. And then at the end of our first phase 1, there were some versoepeling. We could go out again and meet each other. We could go have a drink together. And I noticed that when I talk to my friends in real life, they have so much ideas. And then we went to a museum with our project, and there people submitted so much ideas just because we could talk to them live. So that was really interesting to see how big the digital threshold still is.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Anna Soßdorf.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was such a nice project, and I loved your slides. They are so neatly done. I have 2 questions. First, I was asking myself, why these 4 topics? Maybe I missed it, but I was wondering, there are also much more topics. Why these 4? What was your decision, or how did this decision come up? Because I was thinking about education at the very moment. And the second question is, when you do this mixed, when you do the groups where you have the campfire together and stuff like that, do you mix this kind of the different status groups? Like, do scientists go together with younger people, or you had like this 6 pictures of the different stakeholders? I was wondering whether you mix them, or whether you put them in separate groups and they develop ideas by themselves.
Yeah, so for your first question, the topics, they were a bit, they were suggested by the ones funding our project. They are the policy domains that are important for the part of the government funding us. So that's why we chose these topics now. We hope to get a continuation of this project next year if everything runs well, and then we want to see for different topics. There's so many interesting topics that we could address, so it will always be a tough choice. I feel a lot for focusing on education, for example, but we will have to see also how the others feel about the topics. And then in the campfire sessions, we mixed the groups. We thought it was because we want to make connections between these different groups. We try to the groups are people 10 people maximally, so 6 to 10 people, to have at least one person with some expertise on artificial intelligence, and then some people who subscribe really as an individual citizen, and then some people connected to these civil society organizations. And the first campfire session was yesterday, and it worked really well. It was wonderful to see what kind of solutions they came up with together. So I'm really curious about the next 5 campfire sessions that there still will be.
Thank you so much, Annelies. Yes, with an eye on the clock, unfortunately, I have to say that this lightning talk session is already at its ending. So if you have any further questions for Annelies, I think you can contact her directly, and she's willing to answer all your questions. So I want to say a sincere thank you to all of our speakers today. It was really interesting, and a thank you to all of you as well for joining this lightning talk session. Now I wish all of you an interesting final panel discussion, which is starting at 3 p.m. And yes, have a good afternoon.